Today, we're going to dive into a powerful story, one that goes all the way back to the dawn of creation. It's about a celebrated resident of heaven whose pride led to his eternal downfall. This is the story of Iblis, and trust me, its lesson is something every single one of us needs to hear.
You know, it all started with a single command and one shocking act of defiance. This single moment kicked off an eternal conflict between humanity and our sworn enemy. So what really went down in the heavens?
All right, let's get right into this pivotal moment. Picture this. Adam, the first human, has just been created, and Allah commands all the inhabitants of heaven, we're talking angels and jinn, to prostrate before him as a sign of respect.
And every single being in heaven complied. They all obeyed the command. Well, all except for one. Just one being stood there, defiant, refusing to bow, and that being was Iblis.
So you've got to wonder, right? Who was Iblis to dare do something like that? See, before this rebellion, he wasn't just some random inhabitant of heaven. No, he held an incredibly high, respected status.
Scholars give us a couple of different takes on his backstory. One view says he was actually a jinn, a being made from smokeless fire, from right here on earth, who was brought up to heaven by the angels. But another view, held by some early Islamic scholars, says he was named Azazil, a leader among the angels. And get this, he was considered the most noble, the most knowledgeable, and the most devout being in all of heaven. Either way, you get the picture. His standing was extraordinary.
Okay, so let's get back to that critical moment of refusal, because this wasn't just some silent act of disobedience. Oh no, it was followed by a direct conversation with God himself, a conversation that was about to change everything, forever.
Allah asks him directly for his reasoning. It's a chance, right? A chance to explain, maybe even to repent. But Iblis's response, man, it reveals the true poison that had already taken root deep in his heart.
And there it is. Iblis just lays his logic bare. He argues that he's superior simply because of his origin. He was made from fire, while Adam was made from clay. In his mind, it's a simple equation. Fire is better than mud.
So this is the absolute crucial point. Iblis became the very first creature to commit the sin of prideful comparison. He looked at someone else and said, I am better than you, based purely on their physical creation. This is the very definition of pride, or kibra in Arabic. It's an arrogance that makes you reject the truth and look down on others.
And the judgment? It was immediate. It was absolute. For this single act of pride, Iblis was cast out of heaven, eternally cursed, his fate sealed right up until the end of time.
But believe it or not, getting thrown out wasn't the end of the story. Instead of any kind of remorse, Iblis was just burning with resentment. He makes a request to God, and then he makes a terrifying vow against the very cause of his downfall, us, humanity.
So first, he asks for a reprieve. He actually pleads for his final punishment to be delayed until the day of judgment, and this request was granted. He was given time.
And what does he decide to do with all that time? He makes a vow. He promises to dedicate his entire existence to misleading the children of Adam. He would make sin and evil look beautiful, attractive, and appealing, all because he was determined to lead every single one of us astray.
And his vow just shows his total commitment to this war. He declared he would attack us from every possible angle, from our future and our past, from our hopes and our fears. He's relentless, working constantly to try and make us ungrateful.
So how does this ancient story about a fallen being from heaven become a really profound and urgent lesson for our own lives? Why does this one act of pride from millennia ago still matter so much to you and me today?
Well, it's because the very same sin that caused Iblis's downfall is one that God explicitly warns humanity against. This verse from the Quran is a direct command to us to avoid that same arrogance, that same trait that led to the first rebellion in history. And if that wasn't clear enough, the Prophet Muhammad amplified this warning with this incredibly powerful statement. He said that anyone with even a mustard seed's weight of arrogance in their heart will not enter paradise. Just think about that for a second. A tiny mustard seed. A mustard seed weighs about 1/1000th of a gram. It's almost nothing.
And yet, this tradition teaches that even that microscopic amount of pride is enough to bar someone from heaven. That shows you just how spiritually toxic this trait is.
So why is it so dangerous? Well, because pride fundamentally corrupts our spiritual heart. It makes us feel like we're superior to other people. It blocks us from accepting truth and guidance. And most importantly, it's a quality that Allah explicitly dislikes.
And this really brings us to the ultimate lesson from Iblis's fall. From a divine perspective, our origins, our wealth, our race, our status, none of that stuff matters. We are all equal. The only thing that truly distinguishes one person from another is taqwa, that state of piety, righteousness, and consciousness of God. So this ancient story leaves us with a critical question for our lives today. The most knowledgeable, most devout worshiper in heaven was brought down by a single seed of pride. Knowing its devastating power, what are we actively doing in our daily lives to recognize it and to keep it from taking root in our own hearts?